happy World Sleep Day to you. This unofficial holiday is aimed at raising awareness about sleep issues, and this year it comes just 2 days after the Senate passed a bill that could affect all of our sleep. So let's bring in sleep neurologist Dr. Chris Winter, author of The Rested Child: Why Your Tired, Wired, or Irritable Child May Have a Sleep Disorder and How to Help. Dr. Winter, thanks so much for taking the time to come on today. I want to start with the Sunshine Act, because this week the Senate unanimously voted to keep daylight saving time year-round. And many sleep experts have very forcefully come out against this. So can you explain why that is, and what's your take?
Good morning, Diane. Happy Sleep Day, and congratulations on your book and being such a great voice and advocate for sleep. Yeah, so we have been sort of fighting for the riddance of daylight savings time for a long time. You know, having this artificial every 6 months, everybody has to adjust by an hour is really sort of unnecessary. So it's great that Congress is looking into this and is making changes. I think a lot of people in my community were hopeful that we would stay with standard time and not daylight saving time, simply because it creates more light in the morning, which is probably healthier for sleep and for mood.
Yeah, I know those darker mornings and brighter evenings can confuse the circadian rhythm a little bit. But what do you think is the biggest problem with the way most people think about sleep?
I think the biggest problem is that we focus so much on individuals who, quote unquote, can't fall asleep. And that's a phrase I would love to eliminate from the English language. And a lot less on people who sleep soundly and strongly. People who might come over to your house, like your dad, and sits down on the couch and immediately falls asleep, or all the people in church with you that are falling asleep in the pews. Sometimes those individuals feel like they're great sleepers because they can, sleep anywhere. And so I feel like we should put more focus on hypersomnia in this country, and maybe a little bit less on the individuals who struggle a little bit to fall asleep at night.
Well, and that takes me to my next point, because in my book, The Sleep Fix, one of the first things I point out is the difference between insomnia and sleep deprivation. And you were one of the first people to teach me about this misconception. So can you explain what those terms mean and why it's so important to know the difference?
Absolutely. And I really appreciate the way you talk about that in your book, because it's very important to me. I feel like people need to understand that when you hear a news story about the dangers of sleep deprivation, how it can cause heart disease, cancer, depression, that's not entirely the same thing as insomnia, which is an individual who is not happy with the way he or she is sleeping and feels upset or anxious about that. And so often we think of insomnia and sleep deprivation as synonyms, the same thing, but they're really quite opposite. So we want to treat our insomnia patients in this way, but the people who are sleep deprived in another way. And if you're somebody who struggles to fall asleep at night, I always tell my patients, be excited and take heart, because if you're in bed and it's comfortable and it's dark and you're not falling asleep, that's a pretty good indication that you've gotten some sleep relatively recently.
Yeah, and usually if you can relax, then you actually do fall asleep more easily. Now,
That's
in
right.
The Rested Child, you take a deep dive on lots of different issues that can affect children's sleep. So do you have a favorite tip for parents who want to ensure their kids are getting enough?
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a study many, many years ago where they would take children into a cafeteria with all kinds of foods, desserts and good vegetables and proteins, and say, you can eat whatever you want. And the researchers found that initially they just ate cake and pie, but eventually they regulated their own sleep, or I'm sorry, their own eating. Kids will regulate their own sleep. So what I want from my parents is I want you to set up the expectation of sleep. I want you to be in your bedroom at this time, but you can read, you can look at baseball cards, you can draw me a picture. I always tell people, let your kids decide when they turn the light out. As long as you're being very disciplined about the wake-up time, kids generally regulate themselves, and they create a relationship with sleep that's based out of concern for their health and doing the right thing, and not out of fear that if somebody catches me awake at night, I get into trouble. So we told our kids, be in your room, stay there unless you smell smoke or see somebody you don't recognize. But in terms of when you want to go to bed, you make that decision. We don't care. but we're going to make sure you wake up at the right time every day. And that's why COVID has been really problematic for a lot of kids.
It sure has. So whether it's an adult or a child, how do you know when you can address this at home, and how do you know when it's time to see a sleep specialist, and what kind of specialist to see?
It's a great question. I'm an MD, and so I always think about like an orthopedic doctor. And you know, if your knee hurt, you might ice it, you might get a knee brace, but eventually you're going to say, I think I'm going to need to go see an orthopedic specialist, and you make an appointment to go see her. And she, takes her specialized training and figures out what's wrong with your knee and gets it taken care of. I think people need to understand that there's all kinds of great resources out there for your sleep. But at some point, if you or your child is exhibiting excessive sleepiness or can't sleep, go see a sleep specialist. They're out there. They're waiting for you.
All right, Dr. Chris Winter, it's great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane. Have a great day.
You too.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.